Namaskar. We were talking about the substance in the last lecture, and then we saw that there are 6 kinds of substances. Out of these 6, we will study in detail 5 substances, and the 6th one, G, we will study in the next lecture. The first one is Dharmastika or Dharma. I explained to you the purpose of Dharmastika. It helps in the motion of objects, that is matter and energy, as well as G. And we also saw how does it work. I gave an example of fish swimming in water and said that the fish moves by its own in water. Water does not move the fish, but at the same time, fish cannot move without water. That is similar is the purpose of Dharmastika. This Dharmastika is a non-physical entity, and it is not perceptible to our senses. We cannot sense the presence of Dharmastika. It's non-physical. It is eternal and a single substance. It occupies the whole lok, and it is immobile. It itself is immobile because it is occupying the whole lok, but it helps in the motion of other substances. No movement, even of smallest kind, is possible without Dharmastika. For example, I move my hands, my eyes are winking, or any small movement, even movement of, for example, atom, electrons, electron, proton, etc., will not be possible without Dharmastika. Then we have a second substance, Adharmastika. And as we know that this substance helps objects to remain in steady position. Its property is also very similar to Dharmastika. That means it is also non-physical substance, and it is not perceptible to our senses. It itself is immobile and helps Jeev and Pudgal to remain in a position of rest. One might think, why these 2 substances have been conceived in Jainism, whereas these have not been described either in science or any other philosophy for that matter. There are 2 strong reasons for justifying the existence of these 2 substances. Number 1, first, as we have learned, that the Dharmastika helps in the movement and Adharmastika in the rest position. Besides this, there is another strong reason for these 2 substances. That is, it is because of these 2 substances that Akash is divided in 2 parts. One we call as a Lokakas and another Alokakas. What are these 2, Lokakas and Alokakas? We'll see a little later. But the division of Akash into these 2 parts is possible only because of Dharmastika and Adharmastika. Yes, the next substance which we are going to talk is Akashastika or Akash. As we know, Akash gives a kind of accommodation to all other 5 kinds of substances. And what is the expanse of the Akash? It is infinite. Akash is infinite expanse, Infinite is not conceivable ordinarily, but infinite means there is no end to Akash. You can't find the edge of Akash for that matter. And Akash is also non-physical. We cannot perceive it by senses. It is eternal substance. That is, it has neither been created nor it can be destroyed. So the lok which we are talking is what we call in common language universe, is a part of Akas. As I said, the Akas is infinite and the universe or lok is finite. So the lok is situated or located in infinite Akas. That is the concept. So what is there beyond the lok? Because the Akas is infinite and lok is finite. So what is there beyond the lok? That part of the Akas is known as alok. So the Akas is divided in two parts, lok and alok. And the Dharmastika and Adharmastika are present only in lok and they are absent in alok. So that is the reason, that the existence of Dharmastika and Adharmastika is justified, that because of these two, the lok remains different from alok. The lok will never expand into alok, So the lok has a finite size and a finite shape. Shape also has been described in Jainism, and it is of a finite size. And this size, remains constant because it cannot expand, it cannot move further beyond its boundaries, because Dharmastika, which is agent of motion, is not present in alok, it is absent in alok. And therefore no movement is possible in alok, and hence the lok remains of finite size always. We can understand lok with the help of a figure. So you have a figure before you. It's a three-dimensional figure, and you see that, if you see the front view, it gives a picture of as if a man standing with his legs spread and touching the waist, that kind of figure. So this is the lok has been described, this kind of shape of the lok has been described in Agams. And if you look at the dimensions of the lok, starting from bottom, now you see the bottom trapezium shape, the lowest dimension is 7, and the height of that trapezium is also 7. You will find in the figure. In the middle, is a waist. The waist as if the waist of a human being or a person, and that has a width of 1. What this 1 is, I will tell you later. And then you see the upper part, it has a height again of 7, 3.5 plus 3.5, 7. And in the middle it has a width of 5. These dimensions are described in terms of Raju. The Raju is a unit of distance in Jainism. What is its size in terms of, for example, kilometers or miles? That is very difficult to estimate. It's a very, very big size in relation to these units, small units of kilometer and miles. People have tried to estimate the unit of Raju. So it is said that it may be of the order of 10 raised to power 23 kilometers. That's a very big unit. Or even this probably is actually smaller than the actual size of Raju, because we are not able to estimate the size of Raju as described in the way it has been described in Agams. But the main idea is it's a very, very big unit. So you now imagine that the size of the lok, 7 at the bottom, 7 Raju, and 1 at the middle, and the total height now being 14 Raju. And the lateral dimension is also 7 Raju, as you see in the figure. And so you get a 3-dimensional picture. And if you calculate the volume of this geometry, which is given in this figure, you will find that the total volume comes out to be 343 cubic rajju. So that figure is mentioned in Jain texts, that the volume of the lok is 343 rajju. I like to specially talk about the central region of this lok. You will see in the figure, drawn in dotted lines, a cylindrical space or a rectangular space in the middle of lok. This region is known as a thrust nadi. This is the region, or this is the place where the mobile beings are found. So the mobile beings, which are the Jeeves who can move by their own, are found in a very small region of the whole lok, in the center, which is known as a thrust nadi. Beyond this, outside this thrust nadi, there are living beings, but they are immobile beings, and they are very, very small, minute, of fine size. So they are present all over the lok. In the thrust nadi also, then there are various kinds of lands, In the middle, what we call as the middle lok, you will find in the figure. The middle lok contains all the planets, stars, constellations, moons, and so on. So all these astronomical objects are found only in the middle lok. And in the thrust nadi, in the upper region called as upper lok, the heavens are located in this region. So the upper region of the thrust nadi in the center of the lok contains heavens. And there are a number of heavens, I am not going to talk about it. And at the top of the thrust nadi is a place called Siddhashila, and that is the place where the liberated souls live. After liberations, all souls migrate to this region and they live there. And in the lower part of the thrust nadi, in the lower part of the lok, which is known as Adholok or lower lok, all hells are located. There are 7 kinds of hells which are located in this region of thrust nadi. So I have given you an idea of what is the lok like. And beyond the lok, you will find alok written. This alok means only akash, only space, and nothing else. No other substance is found in this part of akash, which is known as alok. And that part is infinite. It has an infinite spread even beyond lok. So in a way, lok is a very, very tiny part of total akash. This is the kind of description found in Jain agams. The next substance we study is Pudgalastika, or Pudgal, which consists of matter and energy. All matter and energy is Pudgal in Jaina terms. Pudgal is sense perceptible. So whatever things which we see in this world with our eyes or we sense is Pudgal. We see only Pudgal and nothing else. Other 5 substances are not visible. The only substance which is visible is Pudgal, and it is sense perceptible in the sense that you can see it, or you can smell it, you can taste it, you can hear, you can touch and feel that way. So it has properties which are color, smell, taste, touch. That is, you can feel them by our senses. Color we can see with the eyes, smell is known through our nostrils, our nose, taste, with our tongue, and touch with the body, fingers, and so on. And one special thing in Jainism mentioned is that all 4 properties will coexist. Sometimes, you see color on an object, and you don't feel smell, there is no smell in that object. But that does not mean that the smell is absent. The only thing, the smell is not expressed at that time. There may be time in future or past when the smell can also express itself and we can feel smell, we can smell it. So also taste and touch. So all four properties will coexist in any Pudgal. The ultimate individual unit of Pudgal is called Parmanu. That I also mentioned in the last class, that if you go on dividing any physical object as we study in science, then in science we say the atom is the smallest part, then of course atom is also divisible, and we know the particles like electron, proton, neutron, and then proton, neutron also are supposed to consist of parts known as quarks and so on. But there is nothing smaller than quark. But in Jainism, Parmanu is a very, very small particle or entity, much smaller than quark, electron and so on, much smaller than even the photon, which is the light particle. So Parmanu is the ultimate indivisible unit of Pudgal, and in fact Parmanu is the real Pudgal, that is eternal. Parmanu is eternal in its existence. It can neither be created nor it can be destroyed. The Parmanu will always exist. And there are infinitely infinite Parmanus in the Lok, that is also mentioned. And the other bigger objects are formed of Parmanu, so the Parmanus can combine, and give rise to a bigger object, and that is known as Skand. So Skand is a composite aggregate of 2 to infinite number of Parmanus, so you can have a Skand of different sizes. The touch is a very interesting property, and there are 8 kinds of touch properties described: hot, cold, smooth, rough, heavy, light, soft, hard. These are all touch properties. Out of these, smooth and rough properties have been identified as negative charge and positive charge. So smooth touch has been identified as a positive charge, and rough touch as a negative charge. This enables us to make a comparison between the concepts in Jainism and the concepts in science. Parmanu has 2 touch. It can have either hot or cold touch, or it can have either smooth or rough. That is, either it can be positive charge or it can be a negative charge. So it has only 2 touches. But when the Skand is there, that is the aggregate of Parmanus, then many touches can exist at a time. But there are 2 possible kinds of combinations. One we call as a 4-touch Skands. So in the 4-touch Skands, you will have hot, cold, smooth and rough. These 4 touches only. And there are 8-touch Skandas which have all the 8 touch as we have described, that is, they will have hot, cold, smooth, rough, heavy, light, soft, hard. All 8 touches will exist in this. The common matter which we see all around us is 8-touch matter. All the objects which you can see with your eyes is 8-touch matter. We cannot see 4-touch matter. That is very, very fine, subtle kind, and that matter is not visible to us. It is only the omniscient person who can see that, and it is because of his knowledge that we know that such and such matter exists. Then lastly, we have another substance known as a Kal. In normal terms, Kal is time. Kal is time. But the time with which we are familiar with, is a different notion. It's not exactly the time, which the Kal which we described in the last class. A Kal as an agent to enable Pudgal, Jeev in the time journey, or for that matter, all substances in time journey. So, call passively helps other substances to exist in time, as I said, it exists now, one moment later, another moment later, and so on, continues to exist in time. And that kind of time journey is possible because of Kal. So, Kal helps a substance to change its mode. The mode comes one after another in time, and that is because of Kal. If there were no Kal, probably the substances would not be able to change their form or change their modes. Kal is not asthikaya, it doesn't have a spatial extension. It's only the present mode which exists, The next mode has not come in existence now. So at every instance, only one Kal is present, In the next instance, another Kal, next instance, another Kal, and so on. And it doesn't have a spatial extension. That is, the Kal is present only on one pradesha of space. And we defined pradesha in the last lecture. Pradesh is the space occupied by one Paramanu. So how small is Pradesh, you can imagine. And a Kal is present only in that space and no further extension. Two types of Kal described in Jainism. One is we call as a Nischay Kal, and another we call as Vyavhar Kal. The Kal which I had talked just now is Nischay Kal, the one which helps in transition is Nischay Kal. Vyavhar Kal measures the duration of change. Change is taking place in time, and then how much is the duration, that duration is measured with the help of Vyavhar Kal. So it then measures, units like seconds, minutes, or hour, or day, and year, month, and so on. All these units which are used for measurement of time are Vyavhar Kal. And how is the Vyavhar Kal? It's not a substance. The Nischay Kal is a substance that is helping other substances to change their modes, but Vyavhar Kal is not a substance. It's only a device to measure duration, that's all. And therefore, it is defined with respect to the motion of other objects. For example, the convenient object which can act as a reference, for Vyavhar Kal are sun, moon, earth, and so on. And this is written in text, Jain text, that Vyavhar Kal is measured with respect to these moving objects. And we now know that, how the day is defined, when the earth is orbiting, and we know that earth completes one motion in its orbit, one motion on its axis. Earth is moving on its axis. So it takes 24 hours to complete one revolution on axis. And then Earth is moving around the sun, and it makes one orbit in 1 year, and so on. So you can see that these units which are used for measurement are defined with respect to a moving object, for example, Earth, sun, and so on. So besides that, Vyavhar Kal has no existence. What is the smallest unit of time? This also is defined in Jainism, and the smallest unit is Samaya. What is Samaya? You said the Parmanu is a moving unity, moving entity, it is moving. So it moves in space, and it can move with different velocities, low, medium, high, and so on. So when it is moving at a slow speed, and when it goes from one pradesh to adjoining pradesh, this duration is known as samaya. I'll repeat again. The time taken by a Parmanu to move from one pradesh to adjoining pradesh is known as samaya. So samaya is a very, very small entity of time. Other units of time are multiples of samaya, and all these things are defined or described in Jainism. I will not go into those details, but the samaya is the smallest unit. The other units, bigger units, are multiples of samaya. So I have described to you the 5 substances today, and the 6th substance, what we call as G, we will study in detail in the next lecture. Thank you.